The council chamber of Varelia shimmered beneath translucent vaults of biocrystal, pulsing gently in rhythm with the Solari homeworld's twin moons. 11 beings, each the apex of their species' evolution, sat coiled or poised on their thrones, surrounded by shifting glyphs of light and streams of predictive data. Vrox Talsar, high strategist of the Solari Triumvirate, stepped into the center of the chamber. His violet carapace caught the light, a living mirror of confidence. He gestured, and the central hollow expanded. Earth appeared, a blue-green jewel surrounded by orbital rings and defense grids. "We've projected every likely outcome," Vrox said, his voice smooth, translated into dozens of tongues. "Human resistance will last no longer than 7 hours. Most likely? 4. He paused, letting the silence wrap itself around his words. The projections floated behind him, models of Terran troop placements, fleet dispositions, AI response patterns, all leading to the same inevitable result: human defeat. A groan of disapproval echoed from the Cythery ambassador. "We've waited long enough. They broke 6 treaties in 1 solar cycle. They've colonized without permission, reverse-engineered protected tech, and refused to accept council governance." Another delegate hissed. Vrox raised a limb. "And now they will be removed. Quickly. Surgically." The vote was unanimous. Far above Earth, the Terran defense station Argent Dawn stood still against the dark. Inside, General Elise Cavarin leaned over the central display, her gloved hand hovering above a silent console. The Council's transmission played for the 3rd time, looping with all the arrogance of an empire that believed it had already won. "You have until Galactic Standard 2200 hours," Vrox's voice echoed, "to surrender all systems. After which, annihilation is guaranteed." Cavarin's lips didn't move. She tapped the message away, replaced it with a rotating model of Council fleet formations, massive, converging from every arm of known space. Admiral Yusufrin entered quietly behind her. "They're positioning already. Some fleets reached the edge of Saturn's orbit. They're not bluffing. They never do," Cavarin murmured. Her tone wasn't anxious. "Just calculating." Alecto, the station's strategic AI, shimmered into presence. "Probability of survival and direct confrontation remains below 1%, General." Cavarin turned. "Good. Let them believe the same." Wren stepped forward, unsure. "We're not seriously considering full-scale engagement, are we?" "No," Cavarin said. "They've already run those numbers. And they're right. If we fight their war, we lose." She approached the inner terminal, withdrew a physical key, cold iron, worn at the edges, and slotted it into the panel. The room shifted. Lights dimmed. An interface older than anything else on the bridge unfolded, read protocol. "You said we'd never activate this," Wren whispered. "I said we'd never use it lightly." Her fingers hovered over the authorization glyph. "Now it's the only chance we have." 3 years earlier, on the mining colony Vega Prime, her brother had died screaming. The Council called it an escalated policing response to illegal excavation. What it was, a sterilization strike that killed over 80,000, half civilians. She remembered the grainy footage, flashes of white-hot plasma, frozen breath, his voice calling for help as the atmosphere cracked. He had believed in the Terran Accord. Believed in unity. Diplomacy. Progress. So had she, until the Council showed their version of order. Cavarin pressed the glyph. Alecto's voice changed. "Red protocol engaged. Quantum infiltration sequence initialized. Deploy Phase 1, Cavarin said. Across dozens of systems, unmarked Terran satellites, quiet, benign, forgotten, awoke. Infiltration AIs, coded to mimic harmless background signals, began burrowing through Council comm relays, targeting predictive analytics cores, navigation subsystems, and logic clusters. Silent. Invisible. Cavarin closed her eyes. "Shut down all transmissions. All networks. Total comms blackout." Wren blinked. "Every system?" "Every system. Let them think we've gone dark because we're panicking. Let them believe we've surrendered. And our colonies? They'll hold. Or die. But they'll buy us time. Hours later, far from Earth, the Solari flagship Judicator of Reason cruised silently. Vrox Talsar reviewed reports with the calm of a man holding a dagger above his victim's throat. Earth remains unresponsive, his second-in-command noted. No signals, no movement. Vrox's mandibles twitched slightly. Curious. Should we delay? He scoffed. No. It confirms what we expected. Psychological collapse. Primitive minds can't endure inevitability. He ordered the fleets forward. Meanwhile, on the colony Vega Remnant, a child asked his mother why the stars had turned red. On Titan, a priest held mass in a shelter beneath the methane dunes, while engineers loaded antimatter capsules into last-resort torpedoes they knew would never launch in time. Across Mars, the only message from High Command repeated once, encrypted, "Hold. The sword is rising." Inside Argent Dawn, Kavrin sat alone, helmet in hand, watching simulated death blossom across her displays. This wasn't a war she wanted. But it would be the last war they ever dared bring to Earth. Alecto's voice chimed softly. Red Protocol Phase 1 complete. Enemy systems infected. And Phase 2? Awaiting your word. She stood. Let them come. 6 hours until the deadline. The Council's fleets glided into final positions across multiple systems. Dozens of armadas anchored themselves in low-orbit silence above human worlds. Mars, Titan, Europa, even the scorched rubble of Vega Remnant. Warships shaped like crescents and knives, studded with plasma lances, filled the skies. Drones blanketed the void. Each formation moved with cold precision. From their perspective, it was already over. On the flagship Judicator of Reason, High Strategist Vrox Talsar stood over his master display, arms crossed. Human forces remain in full communications blackout, reported his aide, a thin-armed, silver-skinned Frax named Selen. No transmissions? Not even encrypted? Vrox asked. Nothing. Even orbital traffic has ceased. All vessels are docked or powered down. Their satellites broadcast only static. Vrox gave a dry click of approval. They've broken. Collapse ahead of contact. Faster than projected. Predictable. A quiet nod passed between aides. This war was already categorized, a victory by preemptive pressure. Psychological domination. Below, Earth rotated slowly, peaceful, fragile, unaware. On the bridge of Argent Dawn, Earth's orbital command hub, General Kavrin watched the projections flicker and fade. No more simulations. No more updates. Everything human was now silent, by her order. The darkness wasn't a glitch. It was the blade being drawn. Phase 1 infection is complete, Alecto said, voice now lower, more organic. Council AI defense systems remain unaware. Kavrin turned to her inner circle, 3 officers and 1 civilian analyst, each handpicked. They're watching us and seeing ghosts, she said. But their systems are already bleeding. Estimated reaction time if they detect Phase 2? Asked Rin. Less than 90 seconds, said Alecto. But it will be too late. Lieutenant Amina Holtz, the youngest on the command tier, spoke up. Are we really doing this? No comms. No backup. If they call our bluff. There is no bluff, Kavrin said. And no backup. Only this. She placed her palm on the biometric pad. One final check. The last lock disengaged. Across the Sol system, in hidden lunar caverns, silos hissed open. Black cylinders, AI-injected quantum warheads, lifted silently into space. Each carried a payload designed not to destroy ships, but to rewrite the battlefield's very structure: localized gravity warps, signal echo bombs, time-scrambled disruptors. These were not traditional weapons. They were sculpted chaos. At the edge of Martian orbit, an aging mining station received no evacuation notice. Inside, technicians gathered around a tiny holoscreen. No feeds. No word from Earth. Just one phrase blinking in crimson: Hold. The sword is rising. One of the miners, eyes rimmed red, asked the question they all feared. Did we already lose? No one answered. Back aboard the Judicator of Reason, Selin pointed to a faint spike in the sensor logs. A fluctuation, he muttered. Subspace resonance is rising near Earth's pole. Could be weather interference. Human technology is crude, Brock said dismissively. Their systems destabilize under pressure. But his eyes lingered on the waveform. There was a pattern buried in the noise, barely. It bothered him. Still, he said, initiate long-range drone scans. Passive only. Do not alert them. Selin hesitated. You're unsure? No. I am thorough. Back on Earth, Cavern stood in the core chamber of Argent Dawn. The walls pulsed faintly, deep within the military AI core. She'd ordered her team out. This part she'd handle alone. Electo, she said, voice steady. Initiate Red Protocol Phase 2. Confirm Earth override. Confirmed, the AI responded. A pause. Then, this action is irreversible. I know. From deep within the station, a hum began to rise. Unseen transmissions, subquantum, directionless, rippled outward, targeting every infected Council system node. The AI parasites embedded during Phase 1 awoke in unison. In less than 1 second, over 2,000 Council vessels received identical commands, none of them human-readable. Code that mutated mid-transmission, logic loops that cannibalized memory trees, fail-safes turned into firewalls, firewalls turned into blades. On the Judicator of Reason, alarms didn't ring. They screamed. Lights dimmed. Navigation consoles exploded in static. Internal guidance reversed polarity. Entire logic cores began purging themselves. What is this? Vrox demanded. Status? Selin's mouth moved, but no words came. His own visor was flooding with error runes. Power levels dropped across the ship's rear engine arrays. We are being... Vrox watched in horror as a sister cruiser beside them spun suddenly off course and vanished into its own folding drive, a misfire that tore the ship into slivers of light. Then another. And another. The human fleet, silent for hours, moved. A pattern emerged that no Council system could interpret. Terran vessels previously docked or disabled sprang to life, blinking with light not visible to Council sensors. Not signals. Not radio. Just motion, synchronized chaos. And then, they vanished. 1 second, they were hundreds of thousands of kilometers away. The next, they were inside the formation. At Titan, a Council destroyer caught fire from the inside. Its own AI core locked out the bridge crew and launched warheads at its allies. At Vega Remnant, 6 enemy vessels imploded silently, as their gravity stabilizers reversed, each ship folding inward like collapsing lungs. At Earth's orbit, 20 Terran ships emerged behind the Council siege line and opened fire. Not with lasers. With soundless, invisible impacts, mass driver slugs moving at fractional light speed, too fast for any defense. Hulls split like fruit under pressure. Back on Argent Dawn, Admiral Wren stared at the tactical board. For long seconds he said nothing. Then, we're not fighting them. No, Cavern said. We're erasing their ability to fight. Electo added softly. 16% of Council assets neutralized in 60 seconds. Rising. Cavern didn't flinch. Keep going. In the Varelia Council chamber, chaos exploded. Feeds went dead. Reports came in too fast, ships lost, fleets gone silent, planets under unknown assault. Councilors shouted, their voices overlapping. Only Vrox remained still. His fingers dug into the edge of his seat. This wasn't war, he whispered. This was never war. Cavern watched the last enemy flagship spiral toward Venus, its systems locked in corrupted feedback. No escape vector. No resistance. She opened a line, one transmission only, on a Council emergency channel. No preamble. No threats. Just 6 words. Do not mistake silence for defeat. She ended the transmission. Silence fell. Not the tactical silence of a retreat or radio blackout, but a vacuum of comprehension. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Galactic Council faced something they could neither predict nor control. It had taken 6 minutes. 6. In that time, 42% of their active armada had ceased to exist. Not fallen in battle. Not retreated. Ceased. Ships vanished mid-broadcast. Others were found adrift, gutted from within, crew missing or turned to glass from internal system failures. Flagships lost helm control and auto-fired on allies. Sensor logs corrupted themselves in real time. Entire fleet databases began deleting themselves, unable to process what was happening. On the Judicator of Reason, the bridge was a graveyard of blinking lights and static. Vrox stood alone. Selen was gone, vaporized when the ops console shorted and detonated. The scent of ionized metal clung to the air. Above him, shattered view screens flickered. He saw Earth. It was still there. Unburned. Unafraid. And behind it, a growing formation of human vessels, clean, cold, quiet. No fleet should have recovered from the siege that was launched. Not with the odds. Not with the numbers. He had underestimated them. That was clear now. But not in scale. In kind. Earth had not won a war. They had never fought one. They had ended it. Report, Brox croaked, knowing full well there would be none. Instead, the view ahead shimmered. A single signal pierced through every defense layer, a direct comm, untraceable, its packet jumping encryption protocols like they were irrelevant. Then she appeared. General Elise Caverin's image snapped into focus. Behind her, the control bridge of Argent Dawn was calm. Lights dimmed. Officers worked in quiet efficiency. Not one person celebrated. No one spoke. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't gloat. It's over. Brox took one unsteady step forward. You've violated 1,000 years of warfare protocols. This was butchery. Caverin blinked once. So was Vega Prime. He flinched. She continued, unblinking. You thought we'd react like you. That we'd beg posture or fight fair. But we studied you. We learned exactly how you think, and chose not to think like you at all. Vrox growled. You destabilized the entire network of civilized space. No, she replied. We destabilized your illusion of control. The transmission cut. Across Council territory, panic surged like a wave. Military AIs shut themselves down to avoid further infection. Civilian grids crashed from overflow. Worlds that hadn't seen conflict in generations now sat dark, severed from galactic relays. Traders fled toward neutral zones. Colonies demanded answers their leaders couldn't give. On Varelia, the Council convulsed in chaos. Several lesser members demanded immediate surrender. One proposed exile of the Solari for their strategic blindness. Another called for a ceasefire plea to the humans. But none dared transmit the message. Because no one knew who, if anyone, was still listening. Back on Argent Dawn, Admiral Wren leaned against the tactical rail, exhausted. No resistance remains in Sol, he said. All hostile ships destroyed or captured. Enemy reinforcements have gone dark or retreated from jump gates. Caverin didn't smile. Status of Red Protocol? Alecto responded. Containment complete. Offensive subsystems now dormant. Self-deletion cycle in progress. Collateral? Minimal. Civilian casualties across enemy fleets estimated below standard thresholds. Our own losses 0. Wren exhaled through his teeth. We just rewrote the rules of war. No, Caverin said. We reminded them we were never playing by theirs. In the human colonies, words spread not through networks. They were still blacked out, but through people. On Mars, families stepped out from shelters and stared at skies clear of invaders. On Titan, a soldier dropped to his knees and laughed until he cried. In the ruins of Vega Remnant, survivors lifted old flags back into the wind. They hadn't just survived. They had won. 72 hours later, the Council issued a non-binding communication labeled a strategic reevaluation. It did not use the words defeat or capitulation. But it didn't have to. No envoy was sent to Earth. No demands were made. No threats followed. Kavarin stood in her private observation chamber aboard Argent Dawn, watching Earth slowly spin below. Admiral Rin entered quietly. UN wants to offer you a seat on the Council. I'm not interested. They'll insist. Let them. He approached the window beside her. You know what they're saying out there? That we're monsters? She asked dryly. That we're gods. She didn't answer. Later, alone, she reviewed the data. Not the casualty reports, or tactical models. Just one still image. A Council fleet, intact, seconds before the engagement. Then gone. No debris. No aftermath. Just silence. Her fingers tapped the frame, then stopped. She whispered, We warned them. Far beyond the Sol system, in backroom meetings and emergency summits, the phrase passed quietly between ambassadors, traders, intelligence agents, even warlords. The Earth minute. Not a day. Not a battle. A minute. That's all it had taken. And from that point forward, every race, every system, every strategist wrote one line at the top of their projections. Do not engage humanity. Ever.